Hey, the Walrus Clown here, and today we'll be covering the obscure 90s cartoon. And speaking of which, did you guys know that Where's Waldo got a cartoon based on his books? I lived through the 90s, and I sure as hell didn't. Anywho, after finding a few episodes here on YouTube, I decided to do a review of the series. And here we are. See you after opening. Otter, hit it!
Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo?
First thing is first, we need to go over the technicals. The Where's Waldo, or for those of you in the PAL region, Where's Wally, the television series, aired on CBS Kids for one season in the US and later re-aired on Nickelodeon. The program's opening song, Where's Waldo, was composed by Michael Tavira. It was later followed up by a couple of straight-to-video films. Anywho, on to the fun stuff. Judging by the relatively choppy animation, I originally thought this was going to be crap. But I was pleasantly surprised. They knew their budget was literally a 5-spot and all the free coffee the unpaid interns could drink. So they decided to roll with it and actually made something pretty entertaining despite all the relative shortcomings. Come with me and I'll show you what I mean. First, there is the opening. And like every 80s and 90s show worth remembering, the opening has the best animation and is catchy as crap. Here, take a listen for a second.
Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo? Did you see him? Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo?
For those of you in PAL, here's your opening.
Where's Wally? Where's Wally? Did you see him? Where's Wally?
Kinda similar, aren't they? Anywho, like a good chunk of shows from back then, every episode was standalone and like the bulk of TV-grade animation was formulaic. But they made that formula work. Every episode starts by our narrator, Jim Cummings, and I'm not trying to be funny, the narrator is literally being voiced by Jim Cummings, going on a ramble about something that almost never has anything to do with the episode until it suddenly does, and him pointing out the wrong house or accidentally fading in on Waldo in the shower or something else equally comedic. Then Waldo, his dog Wolf, and sometimes his twin sister Wilma are sent by the wizard Whitebeard to solve a problem in some other realm. Waldo using his magic walking stick to open a portal to said realm with his arch nemesis Oddlaw, which is Waldo spelled backwards, following them and trying to steal the magic walking stick so he can use it to commit crimes like robbing banks and whatnot. Then, as we start the adventure proper, Jim Cummings gives us a list of things to look for in the background. It's almost as if this was based on a look and find book series or something. Anywho, they either reestablish what the problem that needs to be solved is, have Waldo run into the person whose problem he's meant to solve, have cartoon shenanigans happen all the while Oddlaw gets maimed and harassed by Jim, or they do some moon logic puzzles that lead to the solution of the problem all the whilst Oddlaw gets maimed and insulted by Jim.
What are those? Well, here's a brief explanation.
A moon logic puzzle is where you have to solve a problem by using items that do not seem to be connected, but once combined and proven to be a success in hindsight, make vague sense.
And because Oddlaw is a complete jerk who literally steals candy from babies who more than deserves to be insulted by Jim Cummings, here is a montage of him being maimed.
Lovely. It's his mother, and I believe she wants to speak to me.
Good idea. We wouldn't want the type to see any unnecessary violence. Don't you just love the sound of children laughing, Oddlaw?
Oh, about as much as the sound of my dentist's drill.
I'll get that walking stick. Nothing will stop me now.
Most of your quest is in the box with the lock.
Help.
Then, before the commercial break, we get a picture where the audience has 10 seconds to find Waldo. After we get back from the commercials, it's another few minutes of shenanigans, moon logic, and Oddlaw having a bad day with Jim Cummings commentating, and another 10 seconds to try and find Waldo before the second commercial break. And then the wrap-up where Waldo solves the problem and the person he helps ends up losing sight of Waldo before saying, "Hey, where's Waldo?" And the end credits roll. Another positive is the character design. design. Everyone looks like they walked off the pages of Martin Hanford's books that started the franchise. And all the locations the characters they're in can be found in the pages of said books. The people behind this really were fans of the books, and if Jim Cummings being the narrator wasn't enough of a clue, the voice acting is really good. A bit over the top, but that really just works with the tone the show is going for. Anywho, let's take a look at an episode and see that magic formula in action, shall we? Let's just use episode 1, My Left Fang, as our example. Sorry for the low quality, the uploader clearly ripped it from a degraded VHS. Anywho, on with the episode overview. We open up on Jim pointing out the wrong house that ends up having a woman taking a bath. And no, we do not see anything. This is a kid show from the 90s, not an ecchi harem anime. Anywho, we cut to Waldo and Wolf recanting some off-screen adventure, when the wizard Whitebeard shows up and starts our adventure proper by telling them they are going to help a vampire who doesn't want to be a vampire anymore to become human. Then Waldo opens up a portal to the land of the Nasties, a land full of cheesy horror monsters, which is from one of the books, using his magic walking stick. And Oddlaw sneaks in behind him after getting his arm caught in the window slamming. Then Jim gives us a list of things to look for in the background. After entering, they meet Dracula, who is driving a carriage and gives them a ride under the pretext of sucking out Waldo's blood. And yes, Dracula is depicted as an old, comedically focused, cartoony, I want to suck your blood type of vampire. Then, the home run hitting bat Jim said to be looking out for whacks a vampire named Fang into the carriage. And he is the particular vampire who doesn't want to be a vampire anymore. Convenient! After some pleasantries, Fang says that Dracula has a scroll containing the way to turn human somewhere in his castle. Then a random femme fatale female vampire shows up out of nowhere and gives them moon logic puzzles that are meant to be clues to find a scroll, and vanishes the same way she came in, and Waldo gets the upper hand on Dracula by eating garlicky spaghetti sauce and blowing hot air in his face. Then Waldo gets tongue-tied over the clue and the episode cuts to commercials. After we fade back in, we find Oddlaw getting scammed into buying a run-down, falling apart flying broom from a witch that will be important later. Then we cut back to Waldo and crew who will have a few shenanigans to fill time, and we end up with Waldo being in a torture chamber, and we cut to another commercial break. But get one of those still images where we have to find Waldo in 10 seconds before the commercials. Then, after we fade back in, Oddlaw tries to get the magic walking stick, only to end up being tortured for his troubles, and Jim mocking him all the while. Then finally getting back to the plot, they end up at 3 doors, and after solving the puzzle of the doors, they end up in Dracula's chambers, with him still being in his coffin, presumably recharging after getting smelly garlic breath blown in his face. Come to think about it, if he wasn't a vampire, that would have been pretty rude. Waldo might want to consider carrying gum around with him from now on. Anywho, the scroll is in the coffin with him, and they throw a very loud party to both wake up and distract Drac. It works, and they get the scroll, read it, and it's more moon logic. I'm just going to let Waldo read the scroll for me.
It's another riddle. To change who you are, you must be a good sport. Get under the moon and cavort with a wart.
Then, after they hightail it out of there, they run into the witch I said would be important later while standing under the full moon. They end up having a back and forth, and she ends up turning Fang into a frog, and a hot red-headed princess wanders by. I think we can all see where this is going. She kisses the frog, because it's just her thing, I guess. Fang turns into a complete dork, and that just happens to also be the redhead's thing, and they walk off into the sunrise together, and the episode ends. My summary of the episode did it little justice. I had to leave out almost all of Jim's fourth wall breaks, a lot of the physical comedy, and the puns actually worked. While you're more likely to find a PAL version of the series where Waldo is called Wally, you can easily find it here on YouTube. And because like everything else nowadays, Waldo got a reboot in 2019. So giving it a micro review so I don't get bombarded with comments asking me my opinion on it is kind of a thing I have to do. Anywho, the premise goes goes like this. Young adventurers Waldo and Wenda use their problem-solving skills and the help of the International Wizard Society to stop a rival globetrotter named Odd Lulu from using her magic to stir up trouble. And yes, they switched up the premise to not resemble the books at all. Strike one! Wanda gets left on the chopping room floor and switched out for a dark-skinned girl named Wenda that is friends with Waldo, and is meant to be his forced romantic interest, which I don't really mind. Whitebeard looks more like a Harry Potter character than the classic pointy hat wizard he was always meant to be. Oddlaw got gender swapped into being a girl named Odd Lulu, and they all got de-aged. Aside from the Wenda thing, everything about this is wrong. It doesn't feel like a proper adaptation of the Look and Find books anymore. Too many changes. Anywho, I'm the Walrus Clown, and if you like what you saw, then please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notification. All those things help with the algorithm more than people realize. Next time, I do some Christmas stuff, which I've neglected to do for the past few years now. Sorry about that. Anywho, see you then, and stay fresh, cheese bags. Boo!
Hit it. Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo? Did you see him? Where's Waldo?